Hey knitters, come sit by me. Hey everyone, my name is Lisa and welcome to my newly relaunched podcast, Hey Knitters, as we all get together and chat knitting. So if you've been watching me for a long time, you might be thinking, wait a second, new podcast? Well, I recently went through a change of name of my channel and I really wanted to create a special space just for my knitting and just for my knitters. And so I thought, Hey Knitters was the perfect name for this newly relaunched podcast. So I'm calling this episode 1. I'm starting from the beginning. If you are returning, thank you so much for being here. I hope you'll enjoy this slightly new format. And if you just saw this thumbnail and gave a click, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you'll stick around. So if it does happen to be the first time you've joined me, let me introduce myself. My name's Lisa, and I'm a Canadian living in Spain, just outside of Barcelona. I'm an avid knitter and sewist, and this is my space on the internet to chat knitting because I don't want to bore my husband all the time with all the knitting talk. Oh, come on, I still talked about knitting all the time. Now, as I said, I did have a knitting podcast previously, and so I'm going to put that playlist down here so that if you did want to go over and see some of my previous episodes, you're more than welcome. But this is episode 1. We're starting from scratch, and let's see what I've been knitting. Okay, so today I have 3 finished objects for you. I have a bunch of whips. I have some acquisitions as it was my birthday not too long ago, and it was a big birthday, so I treated myself a little bit. And then also I have a couple of plans coming up, so let's get started. However, before I get started, I will tell you what I'm wearing, as is tradition, and this is the simple linen top by Joji Locatelli, and you can see it has this nice detail down the front. I did this in a knit crate yarn that is now discontinued. It's a little bit heavier than the intended weight. The intended weight is fingering, and this is definitely like a heavy fingering, maybe a sport weight. And so I do find that in the summertime, I'm not gonna wear this as much. So it doesn't get as much wear as I kind of hoped it would. However, it's a really great top just for, sort of one of those days that it's like not too hot, but you still wanna wear something sleeveless. And I'm wearing it, I'll see if I can stand up for just a second, with these culottes that I made from a cotton linen blend, and they're nice and high-waisted. And so it's great for my summer knits because most of my summer knits I have knit just a tiny bit too short because I'm just a tiny bit impatient and I want to get it off the needles. So this one I found did shrink up a little bit, but with these high-waisted pants, they work perfect. Okay, I just went and grabbed all of my knitting and I realized that I forgot one finished object here. So actually I have 4 finished objects and then everything else going on. Okay, I wanna start with my favorite make. And is it my favorite make of all time? I don't know about that, but it's definitely my favorite in quite a while. And this is the moss dress from Sandnes Garn. And I will put in a picture of the original. Now the original is made in worsted. It's using the Sandnes Garn Lina. And this is knit up in basically like a fingering sport weight. So let me show it first and then I'll explain the yarn. So you can see here, we've got an I-cord edge, and then this is actually knit inside out. So you can see you knit it this way, and those are all the increases going down. And then at the end, you flip it around and finish the edges. So I did not knit this the full length. I knit it, basically I wanted it to be around knee length. And if I have the picture, I'll show it where I tried it on and I thought, okay, this is enough. Like it was just above the knee and I was just kind of done and I really wanted to have it finished by my birthday. And so I decided to cast off. And then when I blocked it, I ended up getting probably like 5 or 6 more inches. Now, the yarn for this, and I just see a pull here that I've got to fix naturally. The yarn for this is actually reclaimed yarn. So this is 70% silk, 30% cotton, and I had a thrifted cardigan that I can show you in a picture, and I actually took this apart and frogged the yarn. I might have a video of this exact one. If not, I have another video about frogging yarn. It's something that I really enjoy doing, and I love giving something new life through knitting it up into something new. Like that just makes me really happy. So this cardigan got knitted up into this beautiful dress, and I did have to do some math because the gauge was very different. And that actually was not as hard as I thought. I essentially took my gauge And then I looked at the gauge of the pattern, and I basically noticed that my gauge, I had 25% more stitches in 10 centimeters than the gauge of the pattern. And so what I did was I took the starting cast on number for my size, which would normally be a small. I added 25% to that number, and then I just found the cast on number that was closest to that in the size range. I hope that makes sense. And so I ended up making a large, extra large, but clearly it came out my size, and it worked really well because it's this beautiful silk and cotton. It's so soft. It breathes so beautifully. It's got a very spongy texture, which I actually wasn't expecting with that fiber content. It's quite spongy. And this is one that I have worn cardigans over and that kind of thing. Now that it's really dead of summer, I haven't worn this quite as much. I wore it quite a bit kind of May, June, and then July, August, less so. But I can see this being in my wardrobe pretty much forever. And I'm starting work in the fall. So a little bit about me, if you don't know, I'm a musical theater actor and singer for 20 odd plus years. And now that I'm here, I'm not doing that anymore. I had actually kind of moved out of it for the most part before we left Toronto, but I'm now teaching. So I teach acting and singing, and I'm starting more full time at the university where I teach in the fall. And so I could see myself wearing this as part of my workwear, since it's a sort of casual environment. So yeah, and I knit that on 3.5 millimeter needles, and it took me about a month. Now, a month of me only knitting on that. So it definitely was a monogamous knit, but I don't think that's too bad, a month. And actually I have a fair amount, probably about 100 grams-ish of that yarn left. And so I could maybe make another top with it, or I actually have a new baby coming into my sphere. And so I was thinking maybe I could make a very special cardigan for the new baby. I know it's not a practical fiber, but it's reclaimed yarn. I can tell them, like, they don't have to worry about it. It's just might be nice for a September baby in Spain to have a silk and cotton cardi, because it will be very, very light. But I have another possibility for that baby later, so I'll show you. Let me know what you think down below. Okay, next is the Sailor Swift top by Kutuvakika, Veronica Lindberg, and I've made another one of these before. I'll put in a picture, and this one was my test version. It's very much the same, almost exactly, as the version that she made up in the pattern, and I love that version. I really like it in silk. I love that pattern, and so I made another using some sock yarn. Actually, it's not sock yarn. It's a fingering weight merino silk blend from a Spanish dyer named Feliz y Punto, which means it kind of has a double entendre. So feliz means happy, and punto means like period. So happy and that's all. But it also means happiness and punto, which is knitting or knitted things. So you kind of have a double entendre there. At least I think that's what they're intending. So this is such beautiful yarn. I had only one skein, and so because I had done the other one out of silk, the weight was a little bit different, and so I didn't have quite enough for this. So I used another yarn for the I-cords. You can see that there's this gold, and I think this is Zakami yarns, and I also used it at the edge. And this is a special yarn that was given to me as part of a Advent calendar exchange that I did with Inga from the Knitting Tradition, as well as many other knitting podcasters. We did this together. And so, yeah, I used that on the end. And I wasn't sure initially, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to contrast or something closer, but I actually really, really like the gold on the edge. So I'll put in a picture of me wearing it. Again, this is another one that I can wear with high-waisted things, and maybe, you know, I could see in the fall wearing it with like a navy blazer on top, and maybe a pair of, you know, classic trousers, or maybe even some denim. It's unbelievably soft against the skin. I don't wear a ton of my knits directly against the skin, although more so summer knits for sure. But this feels glorious, and I can't wait to buy some more Feliz y Punto, maybe this year at the Barcelona Knits Festival. I think it's going again this year, as far as I know. Okay, and lastly, last garment. This is a Tolsta Tee by the Crayabea, Rebecca Clow. And I bought this pattern, I think not quite when it came out, but somewhere near there. Of course, it's such a classic pattern. It's so flexible. I had some leftover cotton cashmere from Katya. So Katya is actually a Spanish brand, and I had bought a bunch of this to do some baby things and some other things. Anyway, I had a bunch of different colors and I thought, let's do something with stripes. So I made these stripes work, and I also didn't want to have ribbing, and so I did an I-cord bind off here at the neck, which gives me almost like a boat neck. And then I did a folded cuff here and here, and then a folded hem. And that just has the purl bump at the bottom for the turn, and then folded up hem. So other than that, I knit it to pattern, and I'll put in some pictures of me wearing it. Cotton cashmere is such a lovely yarn. It's so nice to wear. It does stretch out a little bit, so you do have to be a little bit careful. Don't block it too aggressively, and don't let it stretch out. Certainly don't hang it. Even folding, like I noticed when I took this out, I did have a line down the middle, so I have to be a little careful. This is another one that now that it's super hot out, I can't wear it, but I did wear it more in the spring, and I can definitely see wearing it to work in the fall, because really until end of October, beginning of November, it's still very, very warm where we are in Spain. Okay, last finished object is the corner to corner blanket, I think it's called. Well, let me double check because I always forget this. No, it's called the rectangular color block bias blanket. Not even close to being the corner to corner blanket. It is corner to corner, but that's not what it's called. This is a pattern by Pearl Soho, a free pattern. I started this last summer as a way to use up all sorts of leftovers in my stash. And so I'll put in a picture of last summer, last July. I was 3/4 of the way through and I ran out of leftovers. Now, come on. Hey knitters, we know how this goes. I have tons and tons of yarn, but I didn't have like the right weight that would go with it in the right fiber. Do you know what I mean? Like you basically need sock yarn or fingering yarn that is gonna go together, and it's all holding double. So this I put on a thread, like on a piece of fingering weight yarn, and we used it for an entire year. Like we literally used it on the scrap yarn for the entire year. So I'll show you in the beginning, and it's gonna look a little bit rougher here because it was, of course, being used the whole time. But the part that I just did over the last couple of days was essentially from this point on. So I just did this point here. And this is a really nice pattern. I can see casting on another one of these pretty quickly. You can see everything here is held double. And I just kept knitting until I ran out, essentially. So you start off by having 5 stitches, and you're going back and forth garter. Now I did add slipping the last stitch with the yarn in front in order to create this nice finished edge. I didn't want just a straight garter edge. And then you go back and forth until you have the width of the blanket you want, and then you turn the corner, and then you go back, you're going from the corner, increasing at both sides every other round. And then when you hit the corner, you turn the corner and you stay the same all the way down until you hit the length you want, and then you turn the corner again, and then you reduce until you end up at the other corner. So that's like the basic overview. I did this on 4.5 millimeter needles. I think the recommended is 4 millimeter, but I wanted it to go faster and be bigger, and it's the perfect size. Now, the reason why I had to finish this now and not just leave it on waste yarn is that my eldest daughter is going to university in like 3.5 weeks in Ireland. She's going to Dublin, and she really wanted this blanket, and she was fighting the dog for it because the dog also really likes this blanket, but she ultimately won. And so this is going to go in her suitcase and go with her to Dublin. I'm taking her there, and yep, milestone. Okay, so that is all of my finished objects. Now whips. So, shoot, I've got to go get something else. I forgot another finished object. Okay, this honestly is the last of my finished objects. Okay, this is the Seagrass Tank by Samantha Guerin. And this was a test as well. And you can see, because it's black, it's gonna be harder to see, but you can see that there's this really beautiful detail that goes down the sides, all the way down the sides here. You can see. And I knit this in Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which is a yarn that I absolutely love. And like I said, I knit my first Sailor Swift top in that, and it's really lovely to wear. That's one I can wear in the heat of the summer for the most part. I finished it, it was a very long testing period, and I finished it just shortly after my dress. So it was sort of like, I was 90% done by like the 7th of May, and there was still another month of the testing period. So I put it away, and I did like the final finishings here. So you can see that there's a folded over, oh, sorry, it's harder to see there. There's a folded over neckband here that I did. And then here was supposed to be folded over neckband, or folded over band as well. And so I did that on this side and on this side, but on the hem, rather than doing that, I actually just let it roll. Let it roll. Just let it roll, because I didn't feel like doing the third band, and especially in the black, like you don't notice. And I actually like the rolled hem a little bit. So I'll put on some pictures there of me wearing it. I knit this to gauge on the recommended needles. It's a really nice pattern, and I could see doing it again, and either like maybe doing it without the little lace pattern. The only thing that was, I'm not gonna lie, a little bit annoying was doing lace in silk on, what is it, 2.5 millimeter needles? Yeah, so 3.25 millimeter needles, lace in silk. Not my favorite, because there's no give to it, right? However, totally worth it. You can see that detail goes through on the back as well. And even though, I mean, yes, it goes down the side, so I suppose you can see the bra a tiny little bit, but not really enough. So this is lovely. And I think I can wear this. I have a red skirt that I sewed last year, the year before, I guess the year before last. And the reason why I wanted to do this in black was that I could have something to wear with that skirt. So yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this. Okay, so now I'm definitely onto my whips. And as I was saying, I had a bit of a knitting injury. I had finished this test super early, so this was already out of the way, but I had 2 other tests, and I was knitting on them and just ended up with the worst pain in my wrists and my elbows. I think it's partly because I was knitting so long in order to finish these tests on time. One of them, well, both of them actually, the yarn arrived later than anticipated, because both of them were sponsored yarn. And so one of them I requested, and then it was being dyed especially for me. You'll see it in a second. And then it had to come from Denmark. And so, you know, I couldn't start right away as if I had got the test and then went to the shop, bought the yarn, or had the yarn on hand, right? I had to wait, I don't know, maybe it was like a week and a half that I lost. And then the other one was also yarn that I had to wait on. And then knitting the 2 of them together, I just ended up with really bad wrist and elbow pain. So I have actually taken like 2 months almost. Well, maybe that's a bit of six weeks off of knitting entirely, which is crazy. Because every time I would try to knit again, it was like, nope, you can't do it. And so the reason why I picked up the blanket to finish is I thought, okay, this is just like straight stockinette back and forth, and you know, on very like easy yarn kind of thing. And I had to finish it for my kid. But I was like, I'm gonna just give this a try and see. And I was doing okay. So I can't knit like as much as I was, hence why they're still not finished, but they're getting there. Okay, I want to start off with the Drevo by Teddy Luxac. So for this one, I need to show you some beautiful yarn from currently my favorite yarn dyer, has been for a while. I just think that she's amazing and I love her work. So I actually approached her and said, would you like to work with me on this test? And I felt really bad. Both of them, I felt really bad that I didn't finish. I did tell them, you know, in advance that I wasn't going to finish because I knew probably, you know, a week or two before that I just could not knit. But I felt really bad. So I'm really happy now to be able to show you these beautiful skeins. So first of all, beautiful box and this lovely card, which has one of her lovely designs in there, because she not only dyes, she also designs. And she started off designing and then moved into dyeing, and she wrote me this really nice card. And she dyed these gorgeous, gorgeous skeins. How beautiful are these? So this is her organic wool linen base, and it's 70% organic wool, 30% linen, 233 meters per 100 grams. So yeah, and it's in this beautiful color called, what is the color called? I'm gonna write it on the screen, but I did get to choose it, and it's absolutely beautiful yarn, and it's lovely to knit with. Has beautiful stitch definition, and it's just a really, really nice yarn to work with. I have not alternated skeins, and I have not had any problem whatsoever. So if that's annoying to you, it's a good thing to know. Here it is all in the ball. And I'll put in a picture first of the Drevo. And the reason why I was drawn to it is the really interesting construction. Like, the construction is fascinating. So let me show you now mine. And you can see here these amazing, I'll put it on this side again so you can see, these absolutely amazing they're a kind of cable in the front. And the way this works, let me show you. So this is the back extension. So you start off by casting on this middle piece, and then you expand from there. And you can see that in the schematic. I don't think I'm giving anything away there, but let me show you how this is gonna work. So this is gonna go over my head like this. Now, don't forget, I haven't blocked it yet. So it's gonna open up. And then I've just done this back extension here. Again, there'll be more extension coming around, and then it will connect under the arms, and then I will add the sleeves. But isn't that cool? I mean, I just thought it was so cool, and it's so nice to wear. It's so soft. It's not picky, beautiful against the skin. I just love this. I think it's the coolest thing, and I'm disappointed that I couldn't finish it in time. Like, look how cool that is. It's kind of like trees or like, I don't know, almost has that kind of old-fashioned Scandinavian pottery or cookware design. Do you know those, like, is it Marimekko maybe? Like, it has those really cool tree designs. Anyway, that's what it reminds me of. So I have this, which is lovely, and I as you can see, it is back on the needles. So that is happening. And thank you again to Teti for being so understanding when I had to pull up the test, and to Cami Jo Knit, Camila, for sending me this beautiful, beautiful yarn. I absolutely love it. Okay, and the other one that I have that's a test is the Chantal top by Moreca Knit. I'll put in a picture of that. This also was sponsored yarn, and I've never done a test with sponsored yarn, and I had two this time, and both of them I didn't finish, which is just, I feel really bad about it. But I literally, there's nothing I could do. I honestly couldn't knit. So for this we're using Gepard Hør Silke, I'm guessing. 30% Tussa silk, 70% French linen, which is very luxurious. However, silk and linen, tough on the hands. And if I were just knitting this and could take as much time as I liked, it probably would have been fine. And I absolutely will, finish this, and I'm sure I'm really going to enjoy wearing it. However, I did find that this was very, very hard on my hands, and maybe not contributed, but like didn't make it any easier, put it that way. So I've put in a picture of what it looks like. It's super cool. Here's where I am right now. It goes this way. And I actually had to rip back one of the I had finished the other side of this and I actually had to rip it back. So it's done in a slip stitch pattern. It's a very cool top. It's got a very cool split side. I just wasn't able to finish it on time. So that's why it's a work in progress. I want to show it to you all finished and done. I'm tempted to put an I-cord around the neck and the armholes because I do worry that this is going to be too hot to wear in the summer in Spain, and I would love to be able to wear it more. So we'll see. Now that the test is done, I might have more flexibility in that. She did want me to finish the cuffs initially when I asked her, but now that the test is over, maybe she'll be more open to me doing that. But anyway, thank you to Gepard for this lovely yarn. Like I said, it's not the yarn, it's the combination of all of these factors together that made it difficult. So normally, you know, with enough time and energy, I think it would be fine. And it really is a very luxurious combination. Last whip is something that was languishing and is now, I have a half, well, it's kind of like a half finished object, really. And again, this is Cami Jo Knit. Camila, when we met up at Barcelona Knits, she gave us one of her sock sets, a couple of us, and this is one of her sock sets from last year based on birds. Now, the sock set, if I have a picture, I'll put it in, but it did have contrasting heels and toes to go with it. But this is based on a bird. Now, I did a sock from this, and you can see, here's my vanilla sock here. I'll put it on my hand so you can see. There you go. And I used for the heels and toes this, which is United Sock from Katya. And this is 100% wool with some polyester. It's not 100% wool. I think it's 75-25 wool polyester, not merino. And I've used this recently on heels and toes, and I just find it more sturdy and more lasting than using merino. And so I thought I'm just going to stick with that. And I do like the contrast of the cream. You can see I did a regular slip stitch heel flap, gusset. And then how I like to often finish my toes rather than doing the Kitchener is I like to do a 3-needle bind off. And I actually like that visible hit of color at the end. And it doesn't bother me in terms of feeling it in my shoe or anything like that. I like doing it. A little more ends to weave in, but that doesn't bother me. And then lastly, I was going to do a folded hem instead of ribbing for this, but now I think I'm actually gonna leave it out because what it does is it just creates this rolled edge that stays, and I don't know, it provides a very similar amount of stretch. And yeah, I think I'm good with it as is. So I have the second one. One thing I did was I do fall prey to second sock syndrome occasionally, and I didn't want to do that. So in this case, I did one leg, and then I did leg. Leg is right. That's the right part of the body. And then I've done the other leg here. So before I did the heel flap and gusset, I finished the other leg so that when I was done this sock, I was already, you know, a good chunk into this one. And I'm gonna get going on that. I have been using these, they fell on the floor, of course. Bendies. And I'll put on the screen the official name of them. They're Addies, I believe. And I was just curious at how these work because I have used the tiny little circulars, but I do sometimes find those hard on my hands. I don't love using DPNs, and I don't mind using Magic Loop, and I do Magic Loop socks a lot. However, in this case, I just found that, have I got an extra one here? Oh yeah, I've got an extra one. This one is the shorty that I would normally use. And I wanted to give this a try, and I like them a lot. The only thing, of course, is there's 3 of them, and if I misplace one, which I am apt to do, then I am in trouble, whereas with Magic Loop, they're attached, you can't lose them. So I'm gonna keep using these. I knit my socks 60 centimeters on 2.0 millimeter needles. I used to be 56 stitches on 1.75 millimeter needles because I was such a loose knitter. So I have tightened up my gauge a bit, but I still have to use the 2.0 and still use 60 stitches. I could probably go up to 64, maybe if it was like for someone with a wider foot, but I have very narrow, very long feet. So for me, 60 stitches, 2.0 works well. Okay, and did I say that was the last whip? That was not the last whip. I think part of me is a little bit nervous. I think part of me is a little bit rusty, and this whole idea of relaunching, I'm feeling a little bit of added pressure. So if you could be gentle with me and not judge my mistakes too much. I have one more work in progress that I started a while ago, and this is a pattern that I basically wanted to use up some of these Knitting for Olive merino colors that I bought to do the Stephen West mystery shawl last October, and I got 2 clues in and then I just abandoned it. But it's such a gorgeous palette. Now there was in mine a lighter color pink, but then I bought this Dusty Moose later. So this is Dusty Moose, Dusty Rose, Plum Rose, and Claret, I believe is the combo. And yeah, I think that's the combo. And so I thought this together was really nice. And so I wanted to do a classic striped sweater for fall. And I ended up with, one moment, please. I ended up with this sweater called Revival by Anka Strict because I really like the neckline. I don't like something too close or too dropped. And I just thought that was a really flattering neckline. I also really liked the all-in-one shoulder. And I did have to adjust a little bit because this is a DK pattern and I was using a light fingering. We shall see how that works out. I didn't swatch, but I did know my gauge from doing the beginning of the shawl. So hopefully it works out, but this is what I've got so far. And I'll show you one side so I can make it nice and flat. I love this color palette. It's just so autumny and beautiful. And look how cool that shoulder is. I just think it's so cool. Yeah, I love it. So I am right now about 5 or 6 rows from splitting for sleeves, unless I try it on and feel like I need more. I'll probably steam it first and put it on a cable and try it on, but I just am so happy. I also had to decide, because nobody was telling me, it wasn't in a pattern, how many rows for the stripes. And I decided on 8 for the stripes. I wanted to make it an even number because then stripes help me count whether I'm on an increased row or a, straight or near round row. And so rather than doing an odd number, I decided to do an even number. So I am knitting this on 3mm needles. So it's going to take quite a while. And also I have my other whips. When I'm in a situation like this where I have whips, but also other things that I want to do, I basically put 2 things on the needles. So right now I've kind of put aside the socks. I have this and I have the Drevo to start because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous to go back to plant-based fiber right now. I want to kind of stick with something that has more give until I'm really sure that my knitting injury is better. But I keep the 2, and so I have to work a little bit on one before I work on the other, so that I have, depending on what I'm feeling like on that day, so that I get some done every day. And actually, when I get to September and I'm back to work, I can see myself leaving a whip at work and then having a work whip and a home whip, and then hopefully I will get more done. So, but I do just love to put on a knitting podcast and knit away and watch those. Do you have a favorite knitting podcaster? I would love to hear. I'm actually going to link for you down below a playlist that I have that's called The Best Knitting Podcasts You're Not Watching. And I called it that because I want to do a video showing some of the lesser known knitting podcasters, because sometimes that YouTube algorithm just buries us and we don't have the ability to, be seen by lots of people, which is always what content creators want. We want to just feel like we're talking to someone and someone's watching us and someone's enjoying what we're doing. So if you follow that playlist below, you can see some of these people that I found, and there's dozens and dozens of videos. Now, I started it a few months ago, so since then maybe some of those people have taken off, maybe they have lots more followers, maybe I've put the same people in there twice, but it will probably give you access to some knitting podcasters that you haven't seen and more fodder for your knitting time on the couch, whenever time that is. Okie dokie, quick, I'm gonna do a few acquisitions. First of all, I had a visit not too long ago from Francesca from An Italian Knitter, and she brought me a beautiful skein of yarn, but she also sent me some yarn because this didn't arrive before she left to come to visit my part of Spain. And so she said, I still want to send it to you. So she sent me, look how generous, these beautiful skeins. And this is called Norli. And it's little cotton, 100% soft Egyptian cotton, 50 grams, 175 meters, made in Italy. I've never heard of this before. So cool. I think this would make an amazing bag. So I think I'm going to use it for a bag. I might even make it a bag that I'm doing in the early part of the autumn. We'll have to see, or it might not be till spring. But I just think this would be like a fabulous tote to take to the grocery store, etc. And then, like I said, I had a birthday, and so I did a small little birthday haul from Las Tijeras Mágicas, which is an online retailer here in Spain, and other people, it's used around Europe. And I got 2 skeins of Knitting for Olive. Where's the other one? Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in the color Blood Orange. I was gonna hop on that tomato soup core train, which is probably already passed, but I don't know. I think I'm always not sure about my coloring. I think I've settled on the fact that I'm a winter. But yeah, I mean, it kind of goes like this. I've been thinking lately I actually might hold this double and use it to make the bodice of a dress that I then attach fabric as the skirt to the bottom. So stay tuned on that. Again, now that it's so late, see, I had so many summer knitting plans and then I couldn't knit. And so I really, didn't get through nearly as much. Luckily, I still had lots previous to show you, but normally I would have a lot more to do in being able to get more done. But in this case, no. And then I have 4 skeins of this Sandnes Garn Tin Lina in this very cool color that I like very much. I don't see a name. If I think it, I'll put it on the screen. And I also got this dress pattern that I thought was really cool. And when you buy the dress patterns separately, you can also get a download code to be able to download the digital pattern. I just thought that was really cool. I love the scalloped edges. However, can't start that until next year. And then lastly, I don't have a ton of plans because of course all of these things need to get finished. But I am going to work on a baby sweater for 2 friends of mine that are having a little boy. And where's the other one? Is that all of them? No. And I want to use the leftovers from my Ulysse sweater. So this is leftover Ulysse yarn from a few different sweaters that I've made. And I feel like all of these together could make a really sweet sweater for a baby boy. I have not chosen a pattern yet. So if you have an idea for a sport weight or heavy fingering weight pattern, I would love to hear it. Okay guys, that's all for me. Thank you so much for joining me for the first episode of Hey Knitters, and I hope that you will give this video a thumbs up for me and also subscribe if you are not already, and I will see you again soon, I promise. I hope that wherever you are, the sun is shining and you are sewing or knitting or doing whatever makes your crafty heart happy, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.